All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody who's already tuning in for this new class, Hollywood Goes to the Dogs. This is the first time we are trying to do this remotely, and I hope that you all enjoy it. We are going to start class in a couple of minutes. I want to give latecomers a couple of minutes to arrive and get situated. So I will tell you a couple of things here up at the top. If you're watching this on YouTube, well, you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to find a comments page. Feel free to leave a comment during class if you have any questions about anything during the class. And after we're finished with the class proper, I'll take a look at those and answer as many as I can. You can also email me at eric@northmetrotv.com. Let's see here. I'm going to do a quick audio check to make sure everything is working the way I think it is. Sounds pretty good to me. This is a real high-tech affair here, as you can all tell. Let's see here. And after class is over, I will leave this class up on the YouTube page so you can revisit it if you would like to. Let's see here, but without further ado, let's start talking dogs. Now, it's hard to know who the very first dog in the movies was. Dogs had been appearing in vaudeville acts for many years, and these vaudeville acts were the basis of many of the earliest films. And as such, it's hard to know what vaudeville act was the first one to be filmed. And let's see, I have a photo to go along with that. Folks, this is the very first time we are trying to do this kind of a class in this way. And wouldn't you know it, my computer has decided that this is the time, there we go, to decide to have some trouble. But there we go, there's some dogs and some minkies. So you can see what I'm talking about as far as vaudeville dogs. But like I say, it's hard to know then who the first dog to appear in the movies was. But we do know the first famous dog, the first dog whose name audiences knew. And that dog was named Rover. He appears in a 1906 British film called Rescued by Rover, about a famous dog who leads his owner to a kidnapped baby. Rover is played by Blair, a collie, and the movie is directed by Blair's owner, a man named Cecil Hepworth, and features Cecil's wife. It's an important film in its own right, not just for the history of dogs in films, but for the history of film overall. It features unusually strong storytelling and plot and editing for the day, and is also considered to be the very first film to feature paid actors. The movie was extremely popular. So much so that the number of prints that were ordered, because Cecil had to keep making print after print after print, so this movie could be shown not just across Britain, but across America and across the world. All those prints and all that printing wore out the original film negative not once, but twice. And in those days, that meant that they had to refilm the entire movie over again each time. So the clip I just showed you is not from the original Rescued by Rover, but from the third time they did it, because that's all that we have left. Another indication of just how popular this movie and this dog was after this movie came out, people started naming their dogs Rover, which prior to this movie had not been a common dog name. Following in Rover's footsteps is a dog named Jean the dog. Jean was also a collie, and she was owned by a man named Lawrence Trimble. He was a reporter who wanted to work in the movies, and he took Jean with him to Vitagraph Studios, where he was assigned to write a newspaper article about that movie studio. While there, the Vitagraph team was shooting a movie starring the Vitagraph girl, an actress named Florence Turner, and they needed a dog that could act naturally on camera. Lawrence offered Jean, and the rest was history. Soon, Trimble and Jean were both working for Vitagraph Studios, with Trimble becoming a very prolific film director, and Jean not only co-starring with Florence, but becoming known as the Vitagraph dog, starring in a number of movies in her own right. She was, without any doubt, the most famous dog of her day. And you can see both her and Florence in 1910's Jean the Matchmaker, in which Jean herds together a pair of eligible bachelor brothers and a pair of sisters, one of whom is played by Florence. After Jean passed on, Trimble found his new canine star at a show for German Shepherds in October of 1920. That dog's name was Etzel von Oringen. That was the full dog's name. He had been a police dog in Berlin and served in the German Red Cross during World War I. After the war, Etzel's owner could no longer care for him and sent him to a friend's kennel in New York. He began to appear at dog shows where Trimble spotted him and immediately recognized Etzel's star potential. Trimble convinced Jane Murfin, a screenwriter and Trimble's partner, to adopt the dog, whom they rechristened Strongheart for the movies. His last picture, and one of the few to survive, was the 1927 movie The Return of Boston Blackie, about a reformed jewel thief trying to help a girl return a stolen necklace. take long for Strongheart to become the world's new most famous dog, with his fame quickly eclipsing Gene's. He, along with another dog we'll talk about in a moment, it helped to popularize the German Shepherd breed in America. He had his own house in the Hollywood Hills with an address separate from his owner's. He was the subject of children's books. He was the very first dog to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which you can still visit today. And he was even the namesake of a popular brand of dog food that was on shelves until the early 2000s. Strongheart's mate was a dog named Lady Julie, and their line continues to this day. But like I kind of mentioned a second ago, Strongheart wasn't the only famous or even the most famous German Shepherd in the movies. In 1918, during World War I, American Corporal Lee Duncan saved a dog and her litter of puppies from a damaged German kennel in Paris. He decided to keep 2 of the puppies, naming them Nanette and Rin Tin Tin, after the name for a pair of good luck trinkets given to soldiers by French children. Lee brought the dogs back to America and began training Rin Tin Tin to do tricks, hoping to be able to win some dog shows and make money breeding him. One of Rinty's tricks was an astounding vertical leap. He could jump nearly 12 feet straight into the air. When an acquaintance of Duncan's began filming the leaps at a show, Duncan began to think that Rin had star potential and how Rinty could maybe be the next Strongheart. He began taking Rinty around to all of the smaller movie studios, and at last, in 1922, he was cast in Warner Brothers' The Man from Hell's River, replacing a wolf that had proven difficult to work with. He quickly began appearing in more Warner Brothers movies, often as wolves, and received a starring role in 1923's Where the North Begins. This movie was an enormous success, so much so that it saved the struggling Warner Brothers from bankruptcy. Here, Rinty plays a dog raised by wolves who has come upon an injured fur trader. Rinty would make 24 more movies for Warner Brothers, all of them very successful. So much so that he became known around the studio as the mortgage lifter. And he was a great actor, too. Not just tricks, although those were very good, but Rinty could perform in a way that very few other dogs even today know how to do. He once faked a limp so well on set that the other actors were convinced that Duncan must be beating him. He has been described as having an extremely expressive face, as in this clip from a movie called Clash of the Wolves, where Rinty is leaving his pack, he believes, to die. The success and fame of Rinty, let alone Gene and Rover, is easier to understand in the silent era. Unlike today, when any dog performers are bound to be overshadowed by their human counterparts, in the silent era, no one could speak, which is part of what allowed dogs like Rinty and Strongheart and Gene to be held in the same esteem as human actors. It sort of leveled the playing field. And Rin Tin Tin was enormously famous. He was featured in ads for several brands of dog food. He received the key to the city of New York. He too had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which you can also still visit today. Warner's received thousands of requests for signed photos of Rinty, most of which were stamped with a paw print and signed by Lee Duncan, most faithfully Rin Tin Tin. Rin Tin Tin also became world famous, thanks in part both to the universality of dogs, I mean, everybody loves a dog, and to the fact that silent films were so easily adaptable for foreign markets. You didn't need to dub things over or change the soundtrack. You just had to change the inner title cards to ones in the language of the country you were showing in. Because of this, Rin Tin Tin was enormously popular around the world. He was the most popular star of any species in the city of Berlin, and is mentioned not once but twice in the Diary of Anne Frank. Rinty and Nanette had 48 puppies, some of whom were owned by W.K. Kellogg, the cereal magnate, Greta Garbo, and Jean Harlow. He would die at home on August the 10th of 1932, and it was huge news. Newspapers across the country carried the obituary, while radio stations observed a moment of silence when reporting on Rinty's death, following it with the next day with a special hour-long program devoted to Rin Tin Tin. His body is interred at a pet cemetery in Paris, the place of his birth. Rin Tin Tin Jr. then began appearing in films almost immediately upon his father's passing, although he was credited simply as Rin Tin Tin. He appeared in 14 movies himself and even voiced himself on the Rin Tin Tin radio program.
Okay, Rennie. We'll stay up here and watch. Be careful, Kamali.
And you, little brother. Come.
Gee, Rennie, we can sure see from up here. And we can watch Kamali get the buffalo. There he goes, after a big one. Look, Rennie, he's ready in his bow and arrow. Bullseye!
Rin Tin Tin Jr. was followed by Rin Tin Tin III, his son. Rin Tin Tin III would appear in only a single film, but is more noted for helping Lee Duncan train more than 5,000 dogs for service in World War II. Dogs were desperately needed in the Second World War, and America was asking American citizens to volunteer their pets for service. It was a difficult sacrifice to make, made somewhat easier by the involvement of Duncan and Rinty's grandson. Since then, the Rin Tin Tin name and his descendants have been used in multiple television shows and films, and today Rin Tin Tin XII makes public appearances to champion responsible pet ownership. While many of the other dogs in the Rin Tin Tin bloodline are trained specifically as service dogs for children with special needs. As famous as Rin Tin Tin was, no other dog actor appeared in more classic movies that are still known and beloved today than Skippy. Skippy was a wire fox terrier owned by Gail Henry East, a former screen comedian who had appeared in 238 movies. Skippy was trained to be in pictures nearly from birth, but he had to be trained in a different way than Rin Tin Tin and Strongheart and the other dogs of the silent era. In those days when sound wasn't being recorded, it was easy for the trainers to just tell the dog what to do. But now dogs like Skippy had to be trained by hand signals so that the trainers could signal them from offset without being recorded on the microphones. Skippy made his debut at 1 year old, appearing in several films as a sort of extra dog in the background. But he became famous practically overnight for his role as the adorable and memorable Asta in The Thin Man.
Madam, I'm very sorry, but no dog can fit it. You cannot take the dog there.
I'm not taking him, he's taking me. Oh!
Are you hurt, madam?
Are you hurt, madam?
Oh, women and children first, boys.
Say, what is the score, anyway?
Oh, so it's you he was after.
Hello, sugar.
He's dragged me into every gin mill on the block.
Yeah, I had him out this morning.
Oh, I thought so.
Oh, this is Tommy, my wife.
How are you?
How do you do?
Tommy, I don't usually look like this. I've been Christmas shopping.
Madam, I'm afraid we shall take the dog out.
Oh, it's all right, Joe. It's all right. It's my dog. And, my wife.
Well, you might have mentioned me first on the billing.
The dog's well trained. He'll behave himself.
It might bite somebody.
No, he's all right. Look, lie down. Lie down. Stand up. Yeah.
Audiences loved the little dog, and sales of terriers spiked throughout the country. Ironically, he didn't get along so well with his co-stars on that film. You see, Skippy's trainers wouldn't let him interact with the other human actors between takes, fearing that it might ruin his concentration and distract him from the trainers. As such, during one take, Skippy actually bit star Myrna Loy on the hand. Skippy would go on to appear in the first 3 Thin Man movies, as well as 18 others. He was often credited as Asta, as he was so well known in that role. He also appeared in The Awful Truth, a movie about a divorcing couple, Cary Grant and Irene Dunne, who are fighting over custody of the little guy. In that movie, his character is named Mr. Smith, but in one scene, you can distinctly hear Cary call him Skippy while they are playing.
Mr. Smith, look who's here.
Come on, boy. Up there, boy. Skip the postcard. Say, where's Mama? Hey, look. I got something for you. Look. Ah, come on, get it. Come on, boy. Go get it. Go.
Skippy would co-star with Cary Grant again in Bringing Up Baby and was known throughout Hollywood as one of the smartest dogs in pictures. He earned $250 a week when most Hollywood dogs earned only $3.50 a day. It wouldn't be long before canine actors would find prominence in television too. One of the first big television dogs was a dog named Higgins. He was owned and trained by a man named Frank Inn, who found him at the Burbank Animal Shelter as a puppy. Scruffy and mixed bred, Inn thought that he was a mix between a miniature poodle, a cocker spaniel, and a schnauzer. Inn had trained Arnold Ziffel and all of the other animals on the Beverly Hillbillies, the Waltons, Green Acres, and Petticoat Junction. Inn began training Higgins, and at his peak said Higgins could learn a new trick every day and retained them for years at a time, allowing him to do more challenging routines. Along with an expressive face, this made Higgins an ideal television actor. Higgins' big break would be playing the character of Dog in 149 episodes of Petticoat Junction, as well as guest spots on the Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. He formed an enduring friendship with human actor Edgar Buchanan, who played Uncle Joe. Petticoat Junction went off the air in 1970. Higgins would star in one movie after that, a movie called Mooch Goes to Hollywood, before retiring, only to return 3 years later at the age of 16 in spectacular fashion. In that year, an animal trainer and filmmaker named Joe Camp began to feel that there was a glut of low-quality, family-friendly films on the market, and he wanted to produce something that was of higher quality and for families. He created a series called Benji, which centered around a lovable mixed-breed stray with a knack for showing up just in time to help people. Higgins would star in the movie as Benji alongside Edgar Buchanan, allowing the two old friends to reunite. Higgins passed on a couple of years after this, and his daughter Benji would take over the role of Benji. And Higgins' son Mac would play the dog Tramp on My Three Sons. Before I continue on with class, I just want to stop for a quick second to remind you that if you would like to leave a comment on this video when I am finished with class, I'll take a look at the comments and answer any questions that any of you might have. You can also email me if you would like at Eric, E-R-I-C, at northmetrotv.com with your questions, and I'll look at those after class too. There have been many famous dogs throughout Hollywood history. For example, Toto was played by Terry the dog, a brindle cairn terrier who was owned by trainer Carl Spitz. Terry appeared in 13 films alongside Spencer Tracy in Fury and Tortilla Flat, and Jack Benny in George Washington Slept Here, and was even the subject of his own biography, I, Toto. Terry earned $125 a week on the set of the Wizard of Oz, while some of the Munchkin actors earned only $50 a week. Old Yeller is a movie that's near and dear to many of our hearts. The dog in that movie, Old Yeller, was played by a dog named Spike. He was a Mastiff Labrador Retriever mix, owned and trained by a man named Frank Weatherwax. Spike also appeared in the movies A Dog of Flanders, The She Creature, and the movie The Silent Call, which was actually a remake of a movie that had starred Strongheart. Turner and Hooch featured Tom Hanks performing alongside Beasley the dog. Beasley was a dog de Bordeaux, or a French Mastiff, who had been bought from a kennel in Merrimack, Wisconsin, and trained specifically to appear in the movie by Clint Rowe. Beasley was accompanied by another French Mastiff, actually two other French Mastiffs during filming, one of whom was named Igor, who worked as Beasley's stunt double. And of course, a memorable one from my childhood, Beethoven. Beethoven was actually played by 12 different dogs, although he was primarily played by a dog named Chris. Chris and all of the other dogs in that movie had been raised by Eleanor Keaton, the widow of esteemed silent film comedian Buster Keaton. And Chris and all of the other St. Bernards in that movie are all descended from Buster's dog, Junior. Now, when I say famous dog, I'm sure there is one dog above all others who springs to mind.
Lassie! Lassie!
Starring June Lockhart, Hugh Riley, John Provost as Timmy, and, of course, Lassie.
Lassie was played by Pal, a male rough collie. Pal's parents were award-winning show dogs, but because of Pal's large eyes and the white blaze on his head, he was considered to be not of show quality and was instead sold as a so-called pet quality dog. He was bought by a man named Howard Peck, but Peck became weary of Pal's uncontrolled barking and his habit of chasing motorcycles. Howard Peck brought Pal to an animal trainer named Rudd Weatherwax, who had helped train Skippy. Rudd was able to cure Pal of barking, but not of chasing motorcycles. Dissatisfied, Peck gave Pal to Weatherwax rather than pay his bill. When Weatherwax heard that MGM was preparing to shoot an adaptation of the book Lassie Come Home, he thought Pal would be perfect for the lead role. However, Pal was initially rejected by producers for the same reasons he had been rejected from being a show dog, and producers hired a different dog to play Lassie. But they did hire Weatherwax to train the dog they did hire, and Pal to be a sort of stunt dog on the picture. The plan was to make Lassie Come Home as a cheapy B black and white picture. Producers during the production wanted to take advantage of some nearby flooding to shoot a spectacular action sequence. There was just one problem though. The dog playing Lassie refused to get into the water. Weatherwax stepped forward and said Pal could do the whole action sequence, swimming the length of a river and crawling out exhausted, only to then find refuge with a lovable older couple.
Dan, don't you hear something?
Huh?
Down with the chickens.
The door of the chicken coop's a bit loose. If I weren't so lazy, I'd have fixed it long since.
There again. There is something. If you won't go and see who's after your chickens, Daniel Fadden, I will.
No, Sitchin, no. If you want me to go, I'll go. I'll look around, or you won't be sleeping tonight.
All right, Dan. I'm coming. The door. What? The door. Oh, you poor kid. Now, who left you out?
Legend has it, the director was so impressed by Pal's performance that he had tears in his eyes. MGM, the producers of the picture, were impressed too. They fired the other dog, the one they had hired to play Lassie, and hired Pal in her place. They also decided to take an extraordinary step. They were so impressed by Pal's performance that they scrapped the whole idea of doing the movie as a black and white picture and reshot all of the footage now with Pal in full Technicolor. They also upped the movie to an A picture with a bigger budget and more promotion. The film has a great cast. In addition to Pal, you have a young Roddy McDowall, as well as Edmund Gwenn, Nigel Bruce, and Elsa Lancaster. Lassie Comes Home was a great success, making nearly $5 million at the box office. There would be one direct sequel, this one starring Elizabeth Taylor, as well as 5 more Lassie films at MGM. After those 6 films, though, MGM decided that the Lassie series had run its course and were uninterested in making future films with Pal and Weatherwax. Weatherwax disagreed, and he offered to allow MGM to break their contract with Pal and Weatherwax in exchange for exclusive rights and trademarks to the Lassie name. MGM bid. But what was Weatherwax going to do with this property? After all, the movies had begun to make less and less money. Were the movies the answer? Well, producer Robert Maxwell convinced Weatherwax that Pal's future was in television. And the two created a concept about a boy and his dog living on a struggling Midwestern farm. For the boy, producers had it down to 3 actors, but they wanted to let Pal choose. They took the 3 boys to Weatherwax's ranch for a weekend together. After that weekend, it seemed like Pal liked an actor named Tommy Rettig best, and so Rettig got the role as the lead in this new TV series, Lassie.
Jeff, get across the stream. think of a harder way to cure a crick in the back.
Is your back all right,
Sure,
Gramps?
good as new.
I'm glad. Can you drive home okay?
Sure, but we ain't going home. That bear won't be around again. Besides, we got a lot more fishing to do.
Pal would star in a pair of pilots for the Lassie TV series, and CBS enthusiastically picked the series up in 1954. But Pal was getting too old to continue acting, and so his son, Lassie Jr., would play the part of Lassie for the series. Lassie was on the air for nearly 20 years, from 1954 until 1973. For most of that time, Campbell's Soup was the sole sponsor of the show, and they had certain requirements for the actors and the show itself. For example, they forbid the show's stars from appearing in roles that would conflict with an all-American image, and they negotiated heavy product placement in the background of the show. So if you look in the kitchen of Lassie, you'll probably see some cans of Campbell's Soup. Campbell's also ran numerous promotions revolving around Lassie while it was on the air. One for a Lassie wallet required labels from 5 Campbell's products. They ended up sending out 1.3 million wallets, meaning they sold roughly 6.5 million cans of soup. That gives you some idea of just how much people loved Lassie. The series began by following Jeff and his family. When Jeff left the series, they were replaced by Timmy and his family, including actress June Lockhart, for what would become the height of the show's popularity. In this scene from the show, Timmy encounters another collie that has been killing the sheep on a local farm.
Nice fella. Stay there. Don't come any closer. Stay there. Stay there. Nice fella. Stay there. Nice doggy. No, stay. Stay there. Get back. Don't come any closer. Get away. Let's go.
Are you all right, son?
Well, I sure was scared for a minute until Lassie came.
You had your mother and me pretty scared, too.
I'm sorry, Dad, but I just had to find Lassie. I didn't know if she'd run away or... Well, I just had to find out. Lassie, are you all right, girl? You know, you came just in time.
When actor John Provost, who played Timmy, left the role, the whole concept of the series changed, so that Lassie now became a dog working with a series of different forest rangers. After that, Lassie spent a year wandering the roads of America on her own, sort of like the Fugitive or the Incredible Hulk, before settling at last with the Holden family for the last years of the series. Lassie Jr. continued in the role of Lassie for all of the Jeff years and the first 2 Timmy years. Lassie Jr.'s son Spook took over the role, but was very nervous on set after having been scared badly by a falling stage light, and he would be quickly replaced by his brother, Baby, who would finish out the Timmy years and star in the first couple of Forest Ranger years. Meyer would play Lassie then for the last few years of the series. All in all, Pal's lineage has played Lassie now for more than 75 years, with the current Lassie, also named Pal, being the original Pal's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. Speaking of Pal, even though Pal had become too old to continue working as an actor, he would still come to set along with Weatherwax and Lassie Jr. every day, and would lay on a special bed built behind the set. He was known among the cast and the crew as the Old Man. Actor Tommy Rettig said that whenever Weatherwax would coach Lassie Jr. in a routine, if you snuck a peek behind the stage, you would see Pal get up from his bed and do that same routine backstage, pitch perfect, note for note. In 1958, Pal died of natural causes on Weatherwax's ranch. Weatherwax was devastated, and he buried Pal on the ranch. He would visit the grave often, but could never again bear to watch the movies that they had made together.
Come home.
I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight and for joining me for this look at the movie industry's most famous dogs. My name is Eric Houston. If this is your first time joining me for a class, thank you for coming. I have a number of other classes like this, and when things return to normal out there, I'll be visiting community centers around the metro area with those classes. You can find out more about me and those classes at moviemaneric.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and on Twitter. Now, I've been inviting you, if you have questions, to please leave them in the comments of this video. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to check them in a second and answer any questions that you have. And if you were unable to do comments on the video, you can also email me at Eric, E-R-I-C, at northmetrotv.com, and I will be checking those too. And we have more classes coming in the future. If you enjoyed this one, I'm going to be back right here on YouTube Live on April the 14th. That's a Tuesday night, with a special presentation about Mary Pickford, America's very first movie star. It's a favorite class of mine, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with all of you. I'm also working on classes right now about the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges, so look for dates on those in weeks to come, both on Facebook and on Twitter, or again, if you email me at Eric, that's E-R-I-C, at northmetrotv.com, you can join my email list and you will get an email about when our next classes are coming up. But now let's go ahead and we are going to check those comments and see if anybody, hold on, this has become strangely difficult. I apparently, for some reason, cannot see my mouse. There we go. All right, so we will check those comments and see if anybody had any particular questions about movie dogs. Oh my goodness, you guys have been very active on the comments. So let's see what we've got going on here. Let's see. A lot of you are saying that you're watching and saying hello. I appreciate that. That you're very excited. That's very nice. Let's see. Chatting what I want. I think you figured out. Did Rin Tin Tin do his own stunts? Vicky suggests. Yes, he did. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it was very difficult to find dogs who could do those kind of stunts at the time, and the other reason being that stunt work and requirements were a lot more lax at that time. So it was easy for Rinty to be able to do his own stuff. Let's see here. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome. Oh, it looks like some of you might not have had sound for the Petticoat Junction clip. I'll have to look into that. Lots of thanks. This is very touching. Thank you all so much for saying so. Joanne would like to know, what are the trophies in the background? Well, Joanne, we collect trophies here at the Houston household. And so some of these trophies back here are trophies from our collection. One interesting one that we have here, this is from 1954. This is a curling trophy that we have. We also have a couple of pigeon racing trophies and a trophy for like biggest ear of corn. We have a number of great trophies. Let's see here. Oh, thank you very much. Brian says thank you for helping out. It is my pleasure. Let's see. We had a little bit of jumpy video. Unfortunately, the way that we have to do this program, that's the way that it's, I'm afraid, going to be. We're sort of at the mercy of internet speeds, both mine and yours, and at the mercy of Zoom and YouTube. And so I'm giving you the best quality that I can, but I hope that you were able to see what was going on. I am going to see here if anybody left me any emails. Nobody did. That is just fine with me. And so let's see here. I'm going to jump back to this. All right. Well, thank you again very much, everyone, for joining me for this class tonight. Again, I will be leaving this class up on YouTube. I can't speak yet to the quality of the recording. I hope it's pretty good. So if you would like to revisit it, you may. But thank you all so much for joining me. Please stay safe and take care of yourselves. And I hope all of you again on April the 14th for our class on Mary Pickford. Oh, Donald is jumping in with a last minute question. Who trained the bears? That's a very good question, Donald. I can't say that I know that for sure. But what I can tell you, and it might not have come across because again, I know that sometimes the video could be a little jumpy here, but the bear in the Lassie clip, which you can find on YouTube all on its own, is it's sometimes a bear. And when the bear is fighting Lassie Jr., it is a guy in a suit. So I guess that guy's wife trained the bears. But again, thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again with Mary Pickford on April the 14th. Have a great night again. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves.